It's Game 4 of the 2011 Eastern Conference Finals. May 24th. The American Airlines Arena in Miami is electric with tension. The Miami Heat and their newly formed Big Three, LeBron James, Dwyane Wade, and Chris Bosh, are facing off against the NBA's #1 seed Chicago Bulls, led by their impossibly young 22-year-old superstar.
Do you see them as a down-the-line threat, or can they be good enough, the Bulls, now to matter?
But this isn't just any young superstar.
It all depends how they develop.
This is Derrick Rose, in the midst of one of the most unforgettable seasons of this generation.
You are the youngest MVP in NBA history, the NBA 2010-11 MVP trophy.
Highlighted by becoming the youngest MVP in the history of the league. The kid from Englewood, Chicago, one of the city's most dangerous neighborhoods where hope is often a luxury, is now just 3 wins away from clinching an appearance in the NBA Finals. Entering this Game 4 on the road, down 2-1 in the series, the pressure is suffocating. One more loss, and they're on the brink of elimination. The Heat have home court advantage. The crowd is hostile, smelling blood in the water. The stakes couldn't be higher.
Derrick Rose, the all-star guard, the hometown kid from Chicago, and the much-improved Bulls also looking to take the next step.
Only 3 teams in NBA history had ever come back from 3-1 down in the conference finals or the old division finals. And then, in a moment that would define courage in the face of adversity, he went Super Saiyan. Rose elevated for a monster slam in the first quarter, his body contorting in midair as he threw down with the authority of someone who refused to go quietly into the night. The Bulls bench erupted, but the game remained tight. Then, late in the second quarter, with the game hanging in the balance, he cocked back a 2-handed rim rocker that sent a jolt of electricity through his team. The kid was absolutely fearless.
Batted, makes a spectacular play. It's right into Scalabrine. Noah keeps it alive, taken away by Rose. Rose to Bogans, back to Rose. Nice return pass. Oh, pretty spin move.
Miami, however, wasn't fazed by the kid's freakish athleticism. They'd seen spectacular dunks before. They had 2 of the most athletic players in the league. But maybe they should have been concerned, because this is 2011 Derrick Rose, a different breed of competitor.
It's high. The way I look at it within myself, why not? Why can't I be the MVP of the league? Why can't I be the best player in the league? I don't see why. Why?
The play that would live forever in playoff lore began innocently enough. Rose catches the ball on the left wing. The defense rotates. Joel Anthony, Miami's 6'9" defensive anchor, slides over to help. Smart defensive play. Anthony has been Miami's secret weapon, protecting the rim when Wade and LeBron gamble for steals. Rose sees him coming. Time seems to slow down. The smart play is to pass, but Derrick Rose doesn't see the open teammates. He only sees the rim and the giant standing in his way. He attacks, 1 dribble, 2 dribbles. Anthony jumps, fully extended. Rose keeps rising, and rising, and rising. The announcer erupted, "Oh, yes, and it counts." Over Joel Anthony, the arena goes dead silent before erupting in shock.
44th was shot from the field, 17 for 39. One of those by Rose. Yes, and it counts over Joel Anthony.
6'3" Derrick Rose had just posterized 6'9" Joel Anthony with a vicious 2-handed slam that would be replayed for decades. This is 2011 Derrick Rose at his absolute peak. September 27, 2010. Bulls Media Day, the Berto Center, Deerfield, Illinois. The 2010-11 NBA season hadn't even started yet, but the questions were already coming fast and furious. Derrick Rose sat at the podium in the Bulls practice facility, facing a room packed with reporters. He'd just finished his 2nd season in the NBA. Solid numbers at 20.8 points and 6.0 assists per game, an all-star selection that validated his talent. But the Bulls had gone just 41-41, another first-round playoff exit. The narrative was already being written by the media. Rose was a good player, maybe even very good, but not great, not special. The Bulls were stuck in NBA purgatory. Too good to get high draft picks, not good enough to contend. Then came the question that would change everything. Sam Smith, the longtime Bulls beat reporter who had covered Michael Jordan's entire career, leaned forward with his recorder. "Derrick, what kind of expectations do you set for yourself individually going into year 3? Rose looked up from the table. For a moment, he was quiet, his eyes scanning the room full of skeptical faces. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, but carrying the weight of absolute conviction. It's high. The way I look at it within myself, why not? Why can't I be the MVP of the league? Why can't I be the best player in the league? I don't see why. Why not? The room went dead silent. You could hear the air conditioning humming. Reporters looked at each other with raised eyebrows. Did this soft-spoken 22-year-old kid just say he expected to be MVP, the league's most valuable player? Within minutes, the quote was trending on Twitter. Within hours, it was the lead story on every major sports network. The reactions were swift, merciless, and almost universally dismissive. Skip Bayless on ESPN. First take. Derrick Rose needs to pump the brakes. MVP? He's not even the best point guard in his own conference. This is delusional. Stephen A. Smith. I appreciate the confidence, I really do. But come on, LeBron James exists. Kobe Bryant exists. Dwight Howard exists. This is borderline disrespectful to the real superstars. Charles Barkley on TNT. The boy's lost his damn mind. MVP at 22? That's not confidence, that's stupidity. Someone needs to sit him down and explain how this league works. The statistical case against Rose was overwhelming. No player had ever won MVP at 22. Wes Unseld and Bob McAdoo were 23 when they won. The Bulls had been a 500 team for 2 straight years, winning just 41 games each season. Rose wasn't even consensus top 5 at his own position. Chris Paul, Darren Williams, Steve Nash, Rajon Rondo, and Russell Westbrook all had legitimate claims to being better. The competition was fierce. LeBron James was in his absolute prime, fresh off back-to-back MVPs, and looking to cement his legacy. Kobe Bryant was still Kobe Bryant, chasing his 6th championship ring. Dwight Howard was dominating in Orlando, a defensive force unlike anything the league had seen. Kevin Durant was emerging as a scoring machine in Oklahoma City. Dirk Nowitzki was crafting another masterpiece season in Dallas. But here's what the critics missed, what they couldn't see from their studios and press boxes. Rose wasn't making a prediction. He was making a promise, and behind closed doors, a transformation had already begun. Tom Thibodeau, the Bulls' new head coach, understood immediately. The defensive mastermind who had helped build the Celtics championship culture saw something different in Rose's eyes that day. When he said that, I knew we had something special, Thibodeau would later reveal. Not because of the confidence, lots of guys have confidence, but because I'd already seen his work ethic. He meant it. He was going to will it into existence. The summer of 2010 had been different for Rose. While other young stars were partying in Vegas or Miami, Rose was in a gym in Los Angeles with trainer Rob McClanagan. 6 hours a day, 7 days a week, no days off, no excuses. The workout regimen was insane. At 5 a.m., Rose was already in the weight room, adding muscle to his frame. By 7 a.m., he'd move to breakfast and recovery, fueling his body for the work ahead. At 9 a.m., the real grind began with hours of skill work, ball handling drills until his fingers ached, shooting repetitions until the motion became pure muscle memory. Lunch at noon was followed by film study, breaking down every elite point guard in the league. By 2 p.m., he was back on the court for more skill work, focusing on footwork and finishing with both hands. At 5 p.m., came conditioning and agility training that would have broken most professional athletes. Even at 7 p.m., when most players would be done for the day, Rose was still working. More recovery, more film study, obsessing over every detail. Rose added 15 pounds of lean muscle. His three-point shot, once a weakness, became reliable. His mid-range game went from good to elite. But more than the physical transformation was the mental evolution. Rose studied hours of film on every elite point guard. Paul's decision-making, Nash's angles, Rondo's creativity, Williams' strength. I've never seen anything like it, McClanagan would later say. The focus was scary. He'd do a drill 100 times until it was perfect, then do it 100 more times. He wasn't trying to be MVP. He was preparing to be MVP. There's a difference. The belief that Rose would win MVP seemed almost comical heading into the season. The point guard position was loaded with established stars. Chris Paul was coming off another All-NBA season. Darren Williams was putting up ridiculous numbers in Utah. Steve Nash, the two-time MVP, was still conducting symphonies in Phoenix. Rajon Rondo had just led Boston to the finals. Russell Westbrook was emerging as a force of nature in Oklahoma City. Where exactly did Rose, who hadn't even definitively proven he was top 5 at his position, get off claiming he'd be MVP? Then came October 27, 2010, opening night. Bulls versus Thunder in Oklahoma City. The stage was set for Rose to either back up his words or become a laughingstock. The Thunder were the perfect opening test. Young, athletic, hungry. Kevin Durant was already established as one of the league's best scorers. Westbrook was Rose's mirror image explosive, fearless, relentless. This was the future of the NBA colliding on national television. From the opening tip, Something was different about Rose. The explosion was more explosive, the hesitation more deceptive, the finishing more emphatic. He attacked Westbrook like he'd insulted his family, getting into the paint at will, finishing through contact with both hands. Fourth quarter, game tight. Rose took over, scoring 11 of his 28 points in the final period. A pull-up jumper over Westbrook, a drive through 3 defenders, a behind-the-back dribble into a no-look pass to Noah for a dunk that brought the Oklahoma City crowd to its feet. Final, Thunder 106, Bulls 95. Rose, 28 points, 6 assists, 4 rebounds. Good start, but the real statement was about to come. October 30th, 2010. United Center, Chicago, Illinois. The United Center, where Michael Jordan won 6 championships, where legends are made and pretenders are exposed. The Pistons were coming to town, and Chicago was buzzing about their young superstars' potential. What happened over the next 48 minutes was a basketball massacre. Rose didn't just beat the Pistons, he eviscerated them. Every move was a highlight waiting to happen. Every drive was unstoppable. The United Center crowd, hungry for a superstar after years of mediocrity, began to roar with each Rose basket. First quarter, Rose catches the ball on the wing, sizes up his defender, and explodes past him like he's standing still. At the rim, a Pistons big rotates over to help. Rose elevates, hangs in the air for what seems like an eternity, and throws down a vicious one-handed slam. The crowd goes wild. Second quarter, the Pistons try to adjust, sending help every time Rose touches the ball. Doesn't matter. He's seeing everything 2 plays ahead. A behind-the-back dribble at full speed leads to a perfect bounce pass to Boozer for a dunk. A spin move in the lane freezes the defense, allowing him to find Korver in the corner for 3. When they back off, he pulls up and drains jumpers. When they press up, he blows by them. Third quarter, this is where it got disrespectful. A frustrated Pistons defender switches onto Rose on the perimeter. Big mistake. Rose hits him with a crossover so quick that the defender doesn't even move. He just stands there, processing what happened, as Rose calmly drains a 3. The United Center erupts. Fourth quarter, the Pistons make one last run, cutting the lead. The crowd comes alive, hoping to see Rose deliver. Rose responds by going nuclear. A steal leads to a coast-to-coast dunk. Another steal leads to a pull-up 3. With 2 minutes left, Rose delivers the dagger, a crossover so nasty that his defender literally stumbles, leaving Rose wide open for a mid-range jumper that he drains while the crowd gasps. Final, Bulls 101, Pistons 91. Rose, 39 points, 7 assists, 6 rebounds. After the game, Pistons players sat in their locker room, still in their uniforms, trying to process what had just happened. "I've played against Nash, Kidd, CP3, all of them," one veteran said, shaking his head. "I've never seen anything like that. The speed, the power, the creativity, that's not normal. That's not human." But Rose was just getting started. November was about to see an explosion that would shift the entire MVP conversation. To understand what Derrick Rose meant to Chicago, you have to understand what the city had endured since Michael Jordan's last shot in 1998. 13 years of basketball purgatory. The United Center, the house that Jordan built, where 6 championship banners hung as reminders of glory days, had become a mausoleum of past greatness. The Bulls tried everything. They drafted teenagers with potential, Tyson Chandler, Eddie Curry, who never panned out. They signed veterans past their prime. They hired coaches and fired coaches. They won just enough games to miss out on franchise-changing draft picks, but never enough to matter. The team that had defined basketball excellence in the 1990s had become irrelevant. The names tell the story of mediocrity. Marcus Fizer. Jay Williams, career ended by motorcycle accident. Kirk Hinrich, solid but unspectacular. Ben Gordon could score but couldn't lead. Luol Deng, very good but not great. The best player they'd had in the post-Jordan era was probably Elton Brand, who left for the Clippers after 2 seasons. Chicago, a basketball-mad city that lived and died with the Bulls during the Jordan years, had gradually tuned out. The United Center still sold tickets. Chicago supports its teams, but the electricity was gone. The passion was muted. Kids grew up wearing LeBron jerseys or Kobe jerseys, not Bulls jerseys. Then came 2008. The Bulls won the draft lottery with just a 1.7% chance. Hometown kid Derrick Rose was coming home. The #1 pick who grew up 15 minutes from the United Center, who learned the game on the South Side's broken courts, who represented hope for a franchise desperate for relevance. Now, 2 years later, Rose was flourishing into the superstar Chicago had been craving. Every home game felt like a revival meeting. The United Center was alive again, sold out every night, fans arriving early just to watch warm-ups, staying late to cheer every possession. You couldn't walk a block in Chicago without seeing someone in a Rose jersey. The red #1 was everywhere, on Michigan Avenue, in Wicker Park, on the South Side, the North Side, the suburbs, black, white, Latino, Asian, everyone wore Rose. He'd unified a segregated city around basketball again. The MVP chants started earlier each game. First, it was fourth quarter of close games. Then, anytime Rose made a big play, by December they were chanting MVP during introductions. This wasn't just about basketball anymore. This was about civic pride. This was about a kid from Englewood, showing the world that Chicago still mattered. Local TV ratings skyrocketed. Sports talk radio was 24/7 Bulls coverage. Even during Bears season, callers wanted to talk about Rose. The Tribune and Sun-Times battled over who could be more hyperbolic in their coverage. The phrase, "since Michael Jordan," appeared in every article. D. Rose had elevated his game to such a degree that he was actually being considered for MVP early in the season. National media was starting to pay attention. ESPN began showing more Bulls highlights. TNT started flexing Bulls games into primetime slots. But the skeptics persisted. The whispers were everywhere. It's still early. Wait until December. Teams haven't figured him out yet. The rookie wall is real, even in year 3. He'll wear down carrying this team. LeBron and the Heat will take over soon. In his mind, there was no doubt that he was among the NBA's elite. He was like a rocket headed to the top, perfectly positioned for what would become one of the signature games of his career. December 4th, 2010. United Center, Chicago, Illinois. Every MVP season has a signature regular season game, a moment where potential becomes reality, where promise becomes proof. For Magic Johnson in 1987, it was Game 77 against Dallas, when he played center and dropped 38, 17, 16. For Jordan in 1988, it was dropping 59 on Detroit. For Derrick Rose, that moment came on a Saturday night in Chicago. The Rockets weren't supposed to be a challenge. They were rebuilding, starting rookies and journeymen. Kevin Martin was their best player, a good scorer but hardly a superstar. The Bulls were heavy favorites, expected to cruise to an easy home win. NBA TV was carrying the game nationally, but nobody expected fireworks. The NBA has a way of humbling teams that expect easy wins. From the opening tip, everything went wrong for Chicago. Shots that normally fell clanged off the rim. Defensive rotations were a step slow. The Rockets, playing with nothing to lose and energized by the road environment, were hitting everything. Kyle Lowry, then Houston's starting point guard, was playing like a man possessed. By halftime, the Bulls trailed by 12. The United Center crowd sensed an upset brewing. Tom Thibodeau was livid in the locker room. His voice echoed off the walls as he questioned his team's effort, their focus, their pride. This was exactly the kind of game that championship teams don't lose, the kind of trap game that separates contenders from pretenders. Rose sat quietly in his locker, eyes closed, visualizing what needed to happen. His teammates would later say this was when they learned what made him different. While others complained about calls or made excuses, Rose was locked in on solutions. The third quarter was a war of attrition. Every possession mattered. The Rockets knew they had the Bulls on the ropes and kept throwing haymakers. Lowry and Rose went back and forth like heavyweight fighters. Rose drive for a layup through contact. Lowry responds with a three-pointer. Rose pull-up jumper from 18 feet. Lowry counters with a drive and dish for an assist. Rose behind-the-back dribble into a floater. Lowry step-back jumper to match. With 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, the Rockets led by 8. The Bulls looked exhausted. Home games in December are where seasons can slip away. One loss becomes 2. 2 becomes a losing streak. Confidence wavers. Chemistry fractures. The margin between 62 wins and 50 wins often comes down to nights like this. That's when Derrick Rose decided enough was enough. It started with defense. A steal from Lowry at half court led to a breakaway dunk that rattled the rim. The United Center grew loud. On the next possession, Rose picked Martin's pocket, racing ahead for a pull-up 3 that splashed through. Rockets lead cut to 3. Timeout Houston. Coach Rick Adelman tried to calm his young team, but you could see it in their eyes. They knew what was coming. They'd awakened something. Out of the timeout, Rose was everywhere, deflecting passes, fighting through screens, making Lowry work for every dribble. On offense, he was surgical. A crossover freed him for a mid-range jumper. A spin move in the lane led to a floater. An impossible scoop layup through 3 defenders drew a foul. The game went back and forth down the stretch, with neither team able to pull away. With the Bulls down 3 in the final seconds, Rose took the inbounds, dribbled right, and drilled a contested 3 at the buzzer to tie the game and force overtime. The United Center exploded. In overtime, Rose was unstoppable. He scored on 3 straight possessions, putting the game away and securing a 119-116 victory for Chicago. Rose's final line, 30 points, 7 rebounds, 11 assists, 5 steals, including 13 points in the final 5 minutes and overtime. But statistics could never capture what really happened in Chicago that night. In the locker room afterward, Veterans who'd been in the league for years were shaking their heads in amazement. "I've played with Hall of Famers," said Kyle Korver, who'd been teammates with Allen Iverson. "What he just did, that's different. That's special. That's MVP stuff." Joakim Noah, never one to mince words, was more direct. "Y'all better stop playing with my point guard. He told y'all he was going to be MVP. Start believing him." The win over Houston sparked something in the Bulls. They weren't just winning, they were dominating. Rose was playing at a level that made the impossible look routine. The team went 12-2 over their next 14 games, launching themselves from 6th to 3rd in the East. But January was when Rose truly separated himself from the pack. January 8th, 2011, United Center, Chicago, Illinois. If you wanted to prove you were elite, you did it against Boston. The Celtics had the NBA's best defense, anchored by Kevin Garnett, the 2008 Defensive Player of the Year. They had championship pedigree with their big three of Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen. Rajon Rondo was establishing himself as an elite point guard. Doc Rivers was a master tactician. The Celtics were a team that crushed opponents' spirits. Rose took it all personally. From the opening possession, he attacked Rondo with a fury that surprised even his teammates. Drive after drive, finish after finish. When the Celtics brought help, he found open teammates. When they played him one-on-one, he scored at will. Garnett tried switching onto him. Rose went by him like he was standing still. Kendrick Perkins came to help. Rose adjusted midair and still scored. But it was a sequence in the third quarter that announced his arrival among the game's elite. Bulls down 3. Huge possession. Rose isolated on Rondo at the top of the key. The United Center crowd was howling. Rondo, one of the best defensive point guards in basketball, crouched low, ready. Rose went left, Rondo cut him off. Back right, Rondo was there again. The shot clock was winding down. 5, 4, 3. Rose suddenly exploded right, then crossed back left so violently that Rondo stumbled. As the best defensive point guard in the league tried to recover, Rose stepped back and drained a 3. The United Center went wild. Final: Bulls 90, Celtics 79. Rose, 36 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. "I've never seen anything like it," Rivers said after the game. "We threw everything at him. Different defenders, different schemes. Nothing worked. That's not normal for a third-year player." January 15th, 2011, United Center, Chicago, Illinois. If Boston was the test, Miami was the final exam. The Heat's Big Three had been assembled specifically to dominate the league. LeBron James, the 2-time MVP, Dwyane Wade, the 2006 Finals MVP, Chris Bosh, the perennial All-Star. 3 future Hall of Famers in their primes, united with one goal: championships. The buildup was insane. Media from around the world descended on Chicago. The storylines wrote themselves. Rose versus LeBron for MVP. Chicago versus Miami for Eastern Conference supremacy. Team basketball versus superstar basketball. Blue collar versus glamour. The game lived up to every bit of hype. From the jump, the intensity was playoff level. Every possession was a war. The atmosphere was electric at the United Center. Fourth quarter. Game tied at 85. 6 minutes left. Time for the superstars to separate themselves. LeBron attacked first, powering to the rim for a thunderous dunk. The crowd roared in response. Rose answered immediately, splitting a double team and scoring with his left hand. Back and forth they went. Wade hitting a 3, Rose countering with one of his own. With 90 seconds left, the Heat led by 2. They had the ball, trying to extend the lead. Wade isolated on the wing, making his move. Rose, who'd been guarding someone else, suddenly appeared, stripping the ball cleanly and racing the other way. LeBron gave chase, the 2 fastest players in the league in a foot race. At the last second, Rose pump faked, letting LeBron fly by, then calmly laid it in. Tie game. The possession that followed would define the game. With 34 seconds left, the Bulls had the ball. The Heat threw multiple defenders at Rose, forcing him to give it up. But the Bulls' ball movement was perfect. Rose to Dung, to Boozer, to Noah, back to Rose, who'd relocated to the corner. Wide open 3, the biggest shot of the season. SWISH. Final. Bulls 99, Heat 96. Rose, 34 points, 8 assists, 11 fourth quarter points. The Bulls had served notice. The Heat's Big Three had been outplayed by one man in crunch time. After the game, even LeBron had to acknowledge what everyone was seeing. "The young fella played great," LeBron said. "He's having an MVP-type season." By February, the question wasn't whether Rose would be an all-star. It was whether he'd overtaken LeBron as the best player in the conference. In the 2011 All-Star voting, LeBron and Wade still led the East in total fan votes, but Rose pulled in around 1.9 million votes and, at just 22, earned his first All-Star start at guard. For the first time in his career, Rose would start in the All-Star game. At 22 years old, the kid who 3 years earlier was watching All-Star Weekend on TV was now one of the main attractions. But before heading to Los Angeles for the festivities, there was business to handle. February 17, 2011, United Center, Chicago, Illinois. The Spurs weren't just another opponent. They had the best record in the league at 46-9. Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, future Hall of Famers. Greg Popovich, perhaps the greatest coach in NBA history. The model franchise that had won 4 championships and made excellence look routine. Popovich tried everything to slow Rose down. He put multiple defenders on him, tried zone defense, had his bigs show hard on every screen. Nothing worked. Rose carved up the Spurs' vaunted defense like a surgeon. A crossover on Parker led to an easy pull-up. A spin move on Duncan resulted in an and one. A behind-the-back dribble at full speed left Ginobili grasping at air. He was toying with future Hall of Famers. Fourth quarter, Bulls up 5, huge possession. The Spurs needed a stop to stay in the game. They set up their defense perfectly, forcing Rose left into the waiting arms of Tim Duncan. Rose went up. Duncan, the 2-time MVP and defensive anchor, went up with him. But Rose kept elevating. At the apex, he switched hands midair, contorted his body to avoid Duncan's outstretched arms, and somehow banked it in. The United Center exploded. Even Duncan looked shocked. "That's not normal," Popovich said after the game. "What he's doing out there, that's generational talent. That's MVP talent." Final: Bulls 109, Spurs 99. Rose, 42 points, 8 assists, 5 rebounds. His highest scoring game of the season against the best team in basketball. April 10, 2011, Amway Center, Orlando, Florida. Late season showdown. The Bulls traveled to Orlando looking to tighten their grip on the league's best record and send one more message before the playoffs. The Magic, despite their struggles this season, still had veteran pride and a raucous home crowd. This was the moment where Rose could silence any remaining doubters and continue building momentum toward the postseason. Rose didn't just beat the Magic, he put on a clinic. From the opening tip, he was in complete control, attacking the basket with relentless aggression, finding teammates for easy buckets, and demonstrating the all-around excellence that had defined his MVP campaign. The Magic threw everything at him. Different defenders, trapping schemes, zone defenses, nothing worked. Rose was seeing the game 3 steps ahead, making the right play every single time. When they packed the paint, he found shooters. When they played him honest, he got to the rim at will. Third quarter, the Bulls pulled away. Rose hit a pull-up jumper from the elbow. Then he threaded a perfect pass to Noah for a dunk. A steal led to a breakaway layup. The Amway Center crowd, witnessing greatness, could only watch in appreciation as Rose dismantled their team with surgical precision. Final: 39 points. The performance was another masterpiece in a season full of them, further cementing Rose's status as the league's most dominant force. The locker room celebration was electric. Rose had delivered when it mattered most, continuing to showcase the excellence that had defined his entire campaign. May 3, 2011, Derrick Rose was named MVP at 22 years old, the youngest ever. The voting wasn't even close. Rose received 113 first-place votes, while Dwight Howard got 3, and LeBron James received just 4. The regular season numbers told the story: 25.0 points per game, 7.7 assists per game, 4.1 rebounds per game, shooting 44.5% from the field. But more than anything, the Bulls' record of 62-20, the best in the entire NBA, proved that Rose had elevated an entire franchise to elite status. MVP. Rose became reality. Now the playoffs would show his true mettle. Round 1 versus Indiana, 8th seed. The first round was a statement. In Game 1, Rose exploded for 39 points, adding 6 rebounds, 6 assists, and 3 blocks in a performance that announced the Bulls' championship intentions. Game 2 saw him follow up with 36 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, and 2 steals. The Pacers had no answer. The Bulls won the series 4-1, and Rose averaged about 28 points per game, putting the entire league on notice that this wasn't just regular season magic. He was built for the playoffs. Round 2 versus Atlanta, 5th seed. After splitting the first 2 games with Atlanta, Rose knew it was time to take over. In Game 3 in Atlanta, he exploded for a playoff career-high 44 points. The Hawks crowd didn't boo. They couldn't. Instead, they oohed and awed at every move, watching in awe as Rose found lanes that didn't exist and boosted his speed to score in ways that seemed to defy the laws of physics. His combination of explosion, body control, and finishing ability was simply breathtaking. Game 5 back home in Chicago saw Rose drop 33 points and dish 9 assists, giving the Bulls a 3-2 series lead in front of a delirious United Center crowd. They finished the job in Game 6 in Atlanta to win the series 4-2, with Rose averaging about 30 points per game. 2 rounds down, 1 to go. Eastern Conference Finals versus Miami Heat. The dream matchup had arrived. Miami's big three, LeBron, Wade, and Bosh, against Chicago's MVP and the league's best team. 2 Titans warring for a spot in the finals. The entire basketball world stopped to watch. Game 1 in Chicago was a statement. Rose and the Bulls came out with an intensity that shocked even the most optimistic Chicago fans, scorching Miami 103-82. Rose put up 28 points, 6 rebounds, and 7 assists in a performance that was both efficient and dominant. The United Center was absolutely rocking, the building shaking with every Bulls basket. For one night, it looked like the super team concept might be overrated. Game 2 brought reality crashing back. Miami adjusted, Eric Spoelstra made the necessary tweaks, and the Big Three remembered who they were. The Heat won by double digits, evening the series. The Big Three had awakened, and suddenly the series looked very different. Game 3 in Miami saw the Heat take a commanding 2-1 series lead. Rose struggled, shooting just 9 for 22 from the field. The pressure was mounting. The whispers were starting again. Maybe the moment was too big, maybe 22 was too young, maybe the Heat were just too talented. Game 4 was do or die. Lose this one and they'd be staring at a 3-1 hole that only a couple of teams in history had ever climbed out of in the conference finals. Rose came out with an aggression that bordered on desperation. He threw down a one-handed jam in the first quarter that energized his team. In the second quarter, he cocked back a two-handed tomahawk that sent a message. He wasn't going down without a fight. Then came the moment. Rose attacking the basket, Joel Anthony rotating over to help. Rose rising and rising and rising. The announcer's voice reached a fever pitch. Oh, yes, and it counts. Over Joel Anthony. The 6-foot three-point guard had just posterized the 6'9" center with one of the greatest playoff dunks in basketball history. Even Heat fans gasped. The building went silent, then exploded. It was the kind of play that gets shown for decades, the kind of play that defines careers. But Chicago still lost. Rose shot just 8 for 27 from the field, unable to find his rhythm despite the highlight reel moments. Down 3-1, the Bulls' season was hanging by a thread. Game 5 back in Chicago, the Bulls' season on life support. The United Center crowd was desperate, willing their team to survive for one more game. The game was tight throughout, neither team able to pull away. With 15 seconds left and the Bulls down 3, Rose got the ball for one final three-point attempt to save the season, to force a Game 6 to keep hope alive. LeBron blocked it. The season was over. The Bulls lost 83-80. Rose finished with 25 points and 8 assists, but shot just 8 out of 29 from the field. The weight of an entire franchise, an entire city, had finally proven too heavy even for his young shoulders. Rose collapsed to the court, overwhelmed. The cameras caught him lying there, the weight of carrying a franchise at 22 finally visible on his face. Tears streamed down his cheeks as teammates tried to console him. But even in defeat, one thing was certain. This was just the beginning. Rose had carried his team to within one series of the finals, won MVP at 22, and given Chicago a season they'd remember forever. The future was bright. April 28, 2012. Game 1. Bulls versus 76ers. Rose came down bad on his left foot, holding his knee. He was flying and came down wrong. Torn ACL. Season over. Career forever altered. In another life, Rose stays healthy. The Bulls challenge Miami for years, trading playoff battles that defined an era. He evolves his game, adds more consistency to his jumper, becomes even more efficient. He becomes one of the greatest point guards ever, a surefire first-ballot Hall of Famer with multiple championships to his name. The narrative of basketball in the 2010s is completely different, but in this life, we'll always have 2011, that magical season when a Chicago kid asked, "Why not?" and proved why. When basketball was poetry and Rose was Shakespeare. When every drive felt like destiny, every game felt like witnessing history. The numbers tell part of the story. 25.0 points per game, 7.7 assists per game, 4.1 rebounds per game, 44.5% shooting from the field, leading his team to a 62-20 record, the best in the NBA. But it was never about numbers. It was about hope. It was about belief. It was about a young man refusing to accept limitations, refusing to bow to expectations, refusing to let anyone tell him what he couldn't do. Why can't I be the MVP? Why can't I be the best player in the league? I don't see why not. For one glorious season, Derrick Rose showed us exactly why. The youngest MVP in NBA history, forever. Derrick Rose was born October 4, 1988, in Englewood, Chicago, one of America's most dangerous neighborhoods. The murder rate was 5 times the national average. The median household income sat under $20,000. The life expectancy for young black men was devastatingly low. This was where dreams went to die, where survival was the only goal, where hope was a luxury most couldn't afford. He was the youngest of 4 brothers, his father absent from the picture, his mother Brenda working multiple jobs just to keep the lights on and food on the table. But Brenda Rose was different. She was determined that her boys would escape the streets that had claimed so many. Basketball became their salvation, their ticket out, their reason to say no when the streets came calling. The daily routine was non-negotiable. Homework first, then basketball at Murray Park until the streetlights came on. Rose's 3 older brothers, Dwayne, Reggie, and Alan, formed a protective shield around their youngest sibling, recognizing early that he had something special. "We knew he was special," Reggie recalled years later. Even at 8, 9 years old, he moved differently than other kids. The way he could change direction, the way he could finish with both hands, we'd never seen anything like it. We protected him because we knew he could get us all out. At Simeon Career Academy, Rose led the team to back-to-back state championships, putting Chicago high school basketball back on the map. College scouts called him the best point guard prospect since Magic Johnson. NBA scouts watched secretly from the shadows, trying not to draw attention. Gang members tried recruiting him, flashing money and promising protection. Rose's response was always the same: "I'm good," and they knew not to ask again, because everyone in Englewood knew this kid was going somewhere. He spent 1 year at Memphis, leading the Tigers to a 38-2 record and the NCAA championship game. Then Chicago won the lottery with just a 1.7% chance, and the hometown kid was coming home. The Bulls drafted him first overall in 2008. "Chicago, this is for you," Rose said through tears on draft night, and he meant every word. The season's full arc. October-November. Explosion. The season started with a statement game on opening night against the Thunder. 28 points, 6 assists, and 4 rebounds that announced a new Derrick Rose had arrived. Then came the United Center destruction just 3 nights later, where he dropped 39 points, 7 assists, and 6 rebounds on the Pistons, earning standing ovations from the Chicago crowd. The Boston Respect game followed, where he put up 22 points and 13 assists against the defending champions, proving he could run an offense against the league's best defense. Against the Warriors, he showcased pure artistry with 33 points, highlighted by 360-degree layups that defied physics. And who could forget when he crossed over Tyreke Evans so badly that the video went viral worldwide, becoming the crossover seen around the globe. November ended with the Bulls sitting at a 9-6 record, and Rose was already forcing his way into the MVP conversation. The MVP chants were no longer premature, they were prophetic. December mastery. The Houston clutch performance, 30 points, 7 rebounds, 11 assists, 5 steals, plus the game-tying 3 and overtime domination, became the signature moment of December. The Bulls then went on a 12-2 surge that launched them into legitimate contention. Rose was now established as a legitimate MVP candidate, no longer a dark horse or feel-good story. National media was finally paying attention, and they didn't like what they were seeing. A 22-year-old dismantling their preconceived notions of how the league worked. January domination. The United Center takeover saw Rose drop 36 points against the Celtics' best in the NBA defense, proving he could score against anyone. Then came the first Miami statement game, 34 points and 8 assists with 11 fourth-quarter points that showed he belonged in the same conversation as LeBron, Wade, and Kobe. This wasn't hype anymore. This was legitimate superstardom. February validation. Rose became an all-star starter, earning his first start at just 22 years old. Then he destroyed the Spurs, the team with the best record in basketball, for 42 points, 8 assists, and 5 rebounds, making future Hall of Famers look ordinary. The Bulls continued their dominance with an 11-1 run after the All-Star break, and the #1 seed was within reach. March to glory. That road win in Atlanta saw Rose close the game with 30 points and 10 assists, showing his ability to dominate in hostile environments. The 60th win was clinched in Boston with a 23-point, 18-assist masterpiece that had the Garden crowd giving him a standing ovation. And when Brandon Jennings tried to talk trash, Rose responded with 39 points and 11 assists, teaching the young buck a lesson in respect. April coronation. The late-season road game in Orlando became a statement game. 39 points that continued to showcase Rose's dominance as the Bulls marched towards securing the best record in the NBA. The Bulls were on the verge of their 62nd win, and any remaining doubt about the MVP race was vanishing. MVP voting was completed, and the landslide victory was coming. The supporting cast. Tom Thibodeau was the defensive mastermind who maximized Rose's talents while building elite team defense. His system perfectly complemented Rose's attacking style, giving him freedom to create on offense while ensuring the team stayed disciplined on defense. Thibodeau pushed Rose harder than anyone, demanding excellence on both ends of the floor, and Rose responded by becoming a complete player. Joakim Noah was the emotional leader and perfect defensive anchor. His energy and passion set the tone for the entire team, while his passing ability as a big man unlocked Rose's drive and kick game. Noah could make the pass that led to the pass that led to the bucket, and his chemistry with Rose was telepathic. Luol Deng was the two-way wing who sacrificed shot attempts for wins. He was an elite defender who made Rose's job easier by taking the opponent's best perimeter player every night, allowing Rose to conserve energy on defense for his offensive explosions. Carlos Boozer was the veteran scorer who gave Rose a reliable pick-and-roll partner and post presence. When teams focused too much on stopping Rose, Boozer made them pay with his mid-range game and ability to score in the paint. The bench mob was the secret weapon that allowed the Bulls to maintain their intensity for 48 minutes. Kyle Korver's shooting stretched defenses and gave Rose driving lanes. Taj Gibson's energy off the bench provided a spark whenever the starters needed a rest. Omer Asik's defense protected the rim when Noah sat down. C.J. Watson's backup point guard play gave Rose crucial rest without the offense falling apart. Together, they were one of the best second units in basketball, the playing style revolution. Rose fundamentally changed how point guards played the game. He was the first to combine truly elite speed with power finishing at the rim. Before Rose, point guards were either quick and crafty or strong and physical. Rose was both simultaneously, a combination that proved virtually impossible to defend. His ambidextrous finishing was at an elite level rarely seen from any position, let alone a point guard. He could finish with either hand from any angle, adjusting midair in ways that seemed to violate the laws of physics. His body control defied explanation. The way he could contort, twist, and still maintain enough control to score was something usually reserved for highlight reels, not game-winning plays. The clutch gene that emerged in the biggest moments separated him from other talented players. When the game was on the line, Rose wanted the ball, and more importantly, his teammates wanted him to have it. His leadership came through actions over words. He didn't give speeches, he gave performances. His signature moves became the stuff of legend. The hesitation dribble into an explosive first step left defenders frozen, unable to react before he was already past them. The floating teardrop from impossible angles became his go-to move when bigger defenders challenged him at the rim. The baseline reverse dunk showcased his athleticism and creativity. The stop on a dime pull-up jumper, especially from mid-range, became automatic in crunch time, and the full speed behind the back dribble into a layup, often while being fouled, became his calling card, the move that said, "I'm Derrick Rose and you can't stop this." The cultural impact. Rose's MVP season meant everything to Chicago. He was the first true superstar since Jordan's retirement in 1998, ending 13 years of basketball irrelevance. The United Center was alive again with that playoff atmosphere every single night, even in December and January. The city was unified behind the Bulls like the glory days of the 90s, with people from every neighborhood, every background, every demographic wearing that red number 1 jersey. Young black kids saw someone who looked like them, who came from where they came from, succeeding at the highest level. Rose proved that you didn't have to join a super team or leave your home to become great. He proved that hard work could overcome super teams built through free agency. He became a symbol of hope for kids in Englewood and neighborhoods just like it across America. The statistical dominance. Beyond the basic stats of 25 points and 7.7 assists per game, Rose led the NBA in drives per game, constantly attacking the basket and putting pressure on defenses. He was top 5 in fourth quarter scoring, proving his clutch credentials. He led the Bulls to the best record in basketball, despite having no other All-Stars on the roster, a feat that's almost impossible in today's NBA. He had over 20 games with 30 or more points, showing consistency at an elite level. Multiple game winners and clutch performances in huge moments became routine, and the advanced statistics showed elite two-way impact. His offensive rating was elite, while his defensive impact, though underrated, was significant for a point guard carrying such a massive offensive load. The what-ifs. If Rose stays healthy, the entire landscape of the 2010s changes. Multiple Bulls heat, Finals matchups become annual events, creating a rivalry for the ages. Championships in Chicago become not just possible but likely, as Rose continues to evolve his game. His career trajectory points toward becoming a top 5-point guard of all time, joining Magic, Stockton, Curry, and Oscar Robertson in the conversation. The narrative around super teams changes completely. Rose proves that homegrown talent and team basketball can compete with manufactured rosters. The entire NBA landscape looks different in the 2010s, with Chicago becoming a dynasty instead of Miami, and LeBron's legacy taking a different path. The legacy. Despite the injury that robbed us of what could have been, 2011 remains a monument to possibility. It was the last time one star led a team over a super team to the best record in basketball. It was proof that individual will can still matter in a league increasingly dominated by player movement and super teams. It was the season Chicago fell in love with basketball again, when the United Center became loud and proud again, when wearing a Bulls jersey meant something again. It became the standard for what peak point guard play looks like. The perfect combination of speed, power, creativity, and will. Most importantly, it remains a reminder of how quickly everything can change. One moment you're the youngest MVP ever, on top of the basketball world, with a future so bright it's blinding. The next moment, you're lying on the court clutching your knee, your career forever altered. Rose gave us one perfect season. At 22, he was the best player in basketball, the youngest MVP ever. A Chicago kid who conquered the basketball world and showed everyone what happens when talent meets determination meets destiny. Some flames burn brightest before they dim, but that light, that 2011 light, still illuminates what's possible when someone refuses to accept limitations, when someone asks, why not, and then goes out and proves exactly why. Forever, the youngest MVP. Forever that one magical year when Derrick Rose made us all believe. The legacy endures. Despite the injury that would derail his trajectory, 2011 remains a monument to what's possible when talent meets determination meets perfect timing. Rose didn't just have a great season. He fundamentally changed how we think about point guards. Before Rose, point guards were either pass-first facilitators like Steve Nash or score-first combo guards like Allen Iverson. Rose was something new. A point guard with the speed of Iverson, the power of a shooting guard, and the finishing ability of a small forward. His impact went beyond basketball. In a league increasingly dominated by super teams and manufactured drama, Rose represented authenticity. He didn't talk trash. He didn't create controversy. He just worked harder than everyone else and let his game speak for itself. In an era of social media and carefully crafted personas, Rose's genuineness resonated with fans tired of the artifice. For Chicago, he was more than an athlete. He was validation that their city still mattered in basketball. He was proof that a kid from the most dangerous neighborhoods could rise to the very top of his profession. He was hope personified, arriving at exactly the moment when the city needed him most. The youngest MVP in NBA history, forever. Why can't I be the MVP? Why can't I be the best player in the league? I don't see why not. Indeed, Derrick. Indeed.